Hello, name's Anon. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today we got a very fun build that I have assembled a while back, and I've been playing ever since. I assembled this build specifically for playing Boss Rush. I played it all the way through that, and I loved every single second of it. Then I took it to PvP, player versus player that being, and I loved it. It made me feel like I'm wrestling someone to death. This build requires one brain cell to play even perfectly, but it still feels very rewarding, whether it be a mix of the animations, just the feel-goodness of all the Arcana, or the synergies of this build, which there are plenty, technically, anyhow, as you will see in a second. It feels fantastic, it feels rewarding to pull off, and it's just awesome. I have played a handful of runs in the Chaos Trials as well, though I didn't exactly follow all the way through, but I played merely enough to know that I love this build. It's fantastic, I can only recommend it. Let's get right into it. No further hesitation. Today's build is called Heroic Idleness, which is a build focused around the heroic subtype of Arcana, which is, I believe, a handful or even less. Is it like 2, 3, maybe 4 Arcana in the game that have heroic in the name? They typically function the same way. These do count as jumps, but they are not typically jumps that cover large distances while jumping, while being iframe guarded, so you can't take any damage while using jumps in this game. No, these are jumps that typically jump in place, so you gotta stand still, bait enemies in, and then it's a rather large AoE around your character, which will leave a wake of destruction behind. They do grant you a lot of iframes. They usually last for a very long period of time. They are usually melee Arcana, and they are not only large AoE, they also apply stat effect usually, they also have a large knockback, and they have fantastic base damage. These abilities are a menace to reckon with, and my god. We're gonna be playing with 2 of these, and we made a build specifically catering around how to make these synergize. Well, how can we make these even more impressive, and how can we make them even more feel good? So this is essentially a crack cocaine build, as I like to call it. You inject it straight into your veins, and it feels fantastic. No matter how you approach it, it's great. This is also both a very aggressive and a very defensive build, since these abilities are incredibly versatile. Due to the iframes, they can be declared a defensive ability, but also used as a very offensive ability, going in all the way, and then using your iframes to hopefully kill that boss or mini-boss or target while not being able to take any damage. So probably not the easiest to play on paper, though trust me, these are not hard to use by any means. I think that was enough rambling. Let's get into the build, shall we? For our Robe, we're gonna be using the All Robe, which increases our critical hit chance by 10% and our critical hit damage by a fourth. That's right, 25%. This robe can be upgraded, and my god, the upgrade is so powerful. I believe it slaps 12.5% extra on the critical hit damage, which is fantastic. The crit chance, let's not talk about that. It's already amazing. Like, we don't technically need to improve the robe for that, but for the extra crit hit damage, my god, it's so much. And why are we picking the R robe? It's all coming together now because of our starting relic, which is the heart piece to this build. It's the offensive Dark Katana. This relic triples the critical hit chance for all melee Arcana, and guess what? We're using only melee Arcana in this build, so effectively it triples your base crit chance, plus the 10% from the Robe, or however many percent, considering that you might be able to upgrade this over the course of your run, which you should absolutely be doing. This thing is retarded strong. Why so? Because we essentially proc multiple crits on every cast of every single ability, which is just fantastic. Crits plus extra crit damage equals very fun, very rewarding crack cocaine, as I was saying. It's just a lot of large red numbers popping up, and it makes you feel fantastic. Even when you're not exactly dealing great damage, this is fantastic. It also synergizes very well with other items that you might be able to come across. For example, the Dice of the Nemesis, which can make crits deal with like 500% extra damage, which is insane. You love proccing this, and it's just even more rewarding. Assassin's Blade is more, how would I put this? It's more sort of in the background, more rogue, in that it only increases your critical hit damage, though by a lot, so this is very strong, but you won't exactly see any difference with the numbers popping up. They're just gonna be a lot larger. Or other items that increase your crit chance, other items that guarantee crit chance, like the Shark Mask, for example. This build, really, it can be run with a lot of different starting items, but my undeniable favorite is Dark Katana. And that's what I specifically built this build around. Let's get into the Arcana though. This is the meat and potatoes of this build. For our basic, we're going to be using the Ice Dagger. You can use any and all basics you want here. I strongly recommend it being at least a melee basic, and then preferably also a movement basic, which there are not that many of, being signalized by the boot symbol in the top right corner here. Why do we want a move, or potentially want a move here? Because the heroic Arcana that we're going to be using, the heroic Idleness Arcana that require for us to stand still and essentially just press one button, I might add, are also movement Arcana for whatever ungodly reason. So you can not only enhance your entire build's damage by enhancing melee damage, or melee crit chance for example, but also by enhancing movement ability based damage or cooldown reduction. So even though you don't exactly can do anything with cooldown reduction on a basic because they don't have a cooldown, increasing their damage, which is only an occasional happening. You will only occasionally pick up that one cursed item, the boots of whatever they're called, in order to increase the damage of all your movement-based abilities. But there's also another item, the soccer cleats, if I recall correctly, which increases the damage of all movement-type Arcana. So the more possibilities you have for good item pickups, really the more versatile your build is, and the more stronger and the more consistently stronger your build becomes. And Ice Dagger as a whole is already fantastic Arcana, so why not slap it in there? We're not going to be focusing on using our basic here for the most part anyway. The build doesn't exactly require you to even use your basic in the first place. Not a lot anyway, just a bit here and there. And I really like the Ice Dagger. I think this works very well for the build. Now Ice Dagger, in case you've never seen this, is a jab in front of your character. Your character is essentially trying to shank their enemies to death. A very short range jab with a lot of mobility to it, like so. I can move around a lot while casting this. It also deals very high damage. Now of course, we have a very high crit chance, so all the damage here, take into account that we got high crit chance and high extra crit damage. However, I can assure that all of these Arcana deal great damage by themselves as well. This pierces all enemies, allows for a lot of versatility, build-wise, but also movement-wise, but also usage-wise, and it's just overall fantastic. And then once we get the upgrade, it gets way better, where the final hit of this 3-hit chain throws out 2 piercing daggers on the final strike, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Very long range piercing daggers that essentially do the same thing as casting this in melee range. Fantastic. Love to see it. It allows for enemies to be stun locked very consistently, even though, again, we don't technically need that tool. It's just another tool in our arsenal, which we can reserve to using whenever we like. For our dash, we got something, again, very rogue. You can pick absolutely anything you want here. I'm not exactly sure even why I decided to run this. It's Airburst. It's melee, it's a dash, and it's mobility. So it ticks all the boxes, and that's really it. You might probably be better off with another dash that counts as melee, though I believe there are only a handful. Ignition Rush doesn't deal damage, it only burns. So this isn't a viable pickup, I'd say. So this is why I picked it. It's literally the only dash in the game that is melee and deals damage. So that's probably why I picked it then, to get a crit chance on it. Otherwise, if there were another, maybe you modded the game for example, I would strongly recommend you pick another element. So you have 4 different elements at the end of the day, which makes a Captain's Ring find much stronger. Again, more versatility, more different damage items that you can use for your build equals more crack cocaine. You love to see it. So this is definitely not my primary pickup here. Yeah, I would absolutely recommend you pick a different element, but it's gotta be melee and it's gotta be, well, movement, which all dashes are, if I'm not mistaken. So you can't really go wrong with anything that deals damage and is melee. Oh yeah, I should probably explain what this does nonetheless, even though it is so unimportant to this build. You can pretty much entirely ignore what this does. I'm not going to be using this for damage a lot. It's just more of a passive effect that will occasionally proc. Think of it like a stone, for example, or a fairy, a sprite in the back of your mind that just occasionally deals some damage when it ends up knocking enemies into a pit or together, or however you use this. It deals okay-ish damage. It knocks enemies towards a character, or rather pushes them with the path that you're dashing in. It pierces all of them. It has a rather great width, though the range on this is very poor. It's very, very melee-centric, very low AoE around your character. I don't exactly know how to put this into words. It's just a very mid dash. Very, very mid. That's all I can really say about it. It doesn't excel at anything. It's not great. It's okay, and that's about it all. Even when you enhance it, it creates a larger burst that slows all foes hit. Well, great. I still knock them essentially into me, so slowing them doesn't exactly reap a benefit. They can still attack me right after, and it doesn't increase the very poor base damage of this either. So it's really just an pickup that you should probably replace, even if you might like it. It's just not that strong, you gotta admit that. Probably an even better pick would be something like Wavefront, which doesn't count as melee, but it's stronger. It's a lot stronger. It at least does something well, being pushing enemies into pits, or Ignition Rush, which keeps enemies away from you and allows for you to deal slightly higher damage, or Chaotic Rift, which is just overall insanely broken. Like, depends. You might want to replace this, but I'm going for Airburst for the sake of assembling this build. For our standard, now finally getting into the important Arcana here, we got the Wind Heroic Leap, which is fantastic. I love this so much. I used to never like this. This is a very weird to use Arcana. It allows for you to screw up on many, many, many different occasions. However, when you do connect this and you start getting a grip on how to use this effectively and consistently, honestly, can you not love this Arcana? It's awesome. I used to not like it. I used to dislike it. That's why I never used it. Or I should probably put this the other way around. I disliked it because I never wanted to use it. It's not the other way around. It's not I used it a lot and then I started to dislike it. No. I never used it in the first place. And now I did. I kind of forced myself to, and I fell in love with it. I think this Arcana is amazing. It's not super strong like high tier. It's maybe an 8 out of 10, but still, this is fantastic. Now, what does this do? Let's get into the important part here. It is a jump, essentially. So you make a very fast, sort of short-range dash into the direction that you're facing, and then you jump high up into the air with tornadoes around you, pulling enemies in, then after the duration, pushing them away, and dealing a very high damage, very high amount of DPS in the process, like so. Also, as you could tell there, if I do end up connecting my dash to a target, I will essentially pick that target up and smash it into the ground, dealing a lot more damage to that target and all targets around it. Look at that. Now, I can use this 2 different ways. If I don't connect my dash, so I barely make it over here, for example, it will deal a lot less damage. Okay, now I actually connected that. Let's see if we can try again. Yeah, like so. It deals a lot less damage. So you can screw this up at the end of the day. This is more of a single target damage ability, in my opinion, than an AoE damage ability. So you want to focus the main target that you want to eliminate, whether it be a rogue, for example, or an elemental knight or ranger or something. It's up to the situation. But overall, I think this looks great. It feels great when you actually pay more attention to the animation rather than where your character is standing and where you're gonna be landing. Just pay attention to the animation. Look at that. Isn't that sweet? Doesn't that just feel great? Look at all the crit hits too. The landing seems so vicious and so fun. The knockback is fantastic. This ability is a blast to play with. And again, this is a jump. You are completely invulnerable while casting this. It is fantastic. This is, however, a jump that leaves, like most jumps in the game, an opening shortly after using it. So you can't just chain this into something else immediately and remain invulnerable. No, you will be vulnerable briefly, though still, you will be vulnerable. So into enemies that hit many times, if you're in the middle of an attack, for example, of an enemy's attack, like a global Sura attack, for example, you will be hit and you will be interrupted in what you're doing shortly after. If you mistime this, I strongly recommend don't even go there. Don't go that far. Don't be so aggressive that you will be stuck in the middle of an attack. Instead, be aggressive when you can, when you know that you're not going to be stuck, so you don't even risk doing this. When upgrading this, it deals a lot more damage and it also slows foes, which is fantastic. It's just a much stronger version of our measly airburst dash. It's also melee, and it's a movement arcana, and I believe that little sort of exploding rock down there also means that it's an AoE ability or something. I don't know what it means, can't exactly be bothered. And then finally, to top off our build, we got a second heroic arcana, Heroic Blaze. I absolutely love this. It is always fun to use. This is a fiery version of Heroic Leap, however we don't move at all. This is always in place. You can't move while using this. Whatever you try to pull off, it doesn't work. You have to stand still, and then you use it like so. It also burns enemies. It deals very high damage, as you can tell. It's very easy to hit, though it's also kind of easy to miss. It's not the greatest area around your character. Pay attention to it, and you can tell that this is a lot larger than Heroic Blaze. And since Heroic Blaze is so melee focused, and you have to have enemies essentially walking towards a character, you have to bait them into walking into this range. This can be difficult at times. It's difficult to hit rangers, for example. It's difficult to hit lancers, especially because they stay away slightly too far, usually. Pretty much all the time, to be honest. Unless you make them stand near you, they will always be slightly out of range. So far out of range that you will not be able to catch up to them. Since you also can't use movement while casting this, you are completely frozen in place for the entirety of its duration. You really cannot allow yourself to screw this up. And in that case, I would strongly recommend try and group up enemies by using your airburst, for example, and then doing this, which is fantastic. Love all the big numbers there. Doesn't this just seem fun? We have a little bit of a combination here of our standard and our signature, because our standard pushes enemies away, slows them, deals very high damage, and then we can immediately pull them back in with Heroic Blaze, like so. Looks very interesting, looks very fun and rewarding. It's not super strong, doesn't exactly do anything, but it just feels nice to play with. And then finally, to top it all off, we get our charged signature, which is a much longer version of Heroic Blaze, which deals very high damage. You fly up into the air all the way, pretty much, with this jump. Look at that. It's so stylish, too. I love using this. It's so good. The damage is nutty. The iframes are nuts. It's great. It's not super versatile, so if an attack is coming away and you can't see yourself dodging it, you might be able to just jump out of it, like so, or just jumping in place to dodge it altogether, but that's usually not the greatest decision making, in my opinion. You always want to prefer, with these jumps anyway, because they don't move you towards your target, you always want to prefer dodging it manually, without a jump, and then using the jump offensively. Why? Because otherwise you're just wasting damage, and wasting damage on an enemy like a boss means you're wasting time, and wasting time means you risk taking more damage, because they get to attack you more, and with stronger attacks like the signature. So you don't want to use them evasively. Typically, you always want to use them for both aspects, an aggressive and a defensive approach. Now, with all that out of the way, I believe we ticked all the boxes. Heroic Blaze is just mwah. The upgrade, I feel like it might be relevant because you could argue that maybe we want to use different jumps, maybe not heroic jumps at all. That's not really super important to the build. Important to the build is that they are movement arcana and that they're melee arcana. You can pretty much use whatever you like here as long as they allow for versatility. That's all we care for, versatility and high damage numbers. The enhanced version of this, so the signature increases the number of hits and burns enemies on landing. So that's not a given, but it's very strong effect. Very similar to the Heroic Leap, to be honest. But Heroic Leap just feels so much more rewarding to pull off. Love that. Love that kind of wrestling, slamming someone into the ground, dunking them like a basketball type of move. It just feels fantastic, especially in PvP. Enough rambling. Let's move on to the specifics. Intended build playstyle, we have already talked about slightly. You want to alternate between aggressive and defensive, though for the most part, you want to only be defensive while being aggressive. You don't need to let enemies come to you, usually. Just try to group them up somehow, maybe burst them down with your dash and your basic, and then follow that up with either of your heroic abilities, and you should be able to easily finish off any target. You can be pretty much as aggressive as you'd like. However, with a little bit of a caveat, in rooms with a lot of enemies that spawn very far apart from one another, and say it's elemental enemies late game, they usually have ranged abilities, you want to let them group up at least a little bit so you can just have a much easier time killing them, generally, because if you're not doing that, they might end up at the end of your heroic race, for example, stabbing you in the back, stun locking you to death, poisoning you. By the way, status effects are pretty much ignored while using jumps. Also, so if you do get poisoned, for example, poison is just the most annoying debuff to the player because it lasts so long and cancels abilities out. You can jump. You can still do it, but you have to time it. Not right at the same time as a poison take, because then your jump might be cancelled. Don't do that. So try to avoid being hit at any cost, especially by elemental enemies. You really want to avoid being status affected, I guess, or rogue stabbed or stun locked to death. You really don't want to do that. So yeah, just know your strengths and weaknesses. The weaknesses obviously being the downtime in between ability usages and your range, potentially when using Heroic Blaze, for example. Your strengths, of course, being iframes, short-term high damage numbers, short-term high defense capabilities, and a potentially devastating combination of using both your heroics one after another. In terms of potential problems, I don't really see any beside you being overtly aggressive and then dying to bosses, so we don't really have to talk about that section. Let's just move on to the spice. Recommended items and Arcana. Since these are jumps, probably the most broken, overpowered, unfair abilities in the game from a PvE player versus enemy perspective, because they can't really do anything. They can't do anything at all while you are having iframes. You can abuse a lot of items, a large variety of item pools, and then, for example, the stones are fantastic. These are melee abilities that will proc while you are in the air with your iframes. Sprites do the same thing, they're fantastic. Anything signature related is just making these much more abusable, because then you technically get more uses out of your stronger Arcana, your stronger abilities. Anything cooldown related even is very strong, even though you can't chain these typically because of the downtimes in between. Anything that lowers the downtimes in between can be very good, though don't pick it up early. Something like a silver spinning time, for example, will drastically eradicate your movement speed, which is very annoying for the remainder of the run. Not because you need it for dodging, in this build anyway, but because it makes you just so much slower and makes the run last forever, and that kind of just sucks. So don't pick it up early for this build, just out of convenience reasons. So you can do a lot of stuff, but what you generally want to have is just incredibly high damage numbers. So whether it be by signature, whether it be by items like Double Trouble, you can take pretty much any and everything. Even stuff like Heartrender's Amulet, Glass Cannon, things that lower your HP, make you just a lot more squishy and Glass Cannon-like. All of those things work greatly with these because of the versatility of them. You also could go for the basic Arcana related stuff though. Who would do that? Who in their right mind would do that? It'd be so boring to play with this build. Playing a basic Arcana focused build. With this! Really? Are you gonna be doing that? Of course you could go for candies. Of course you could go for any higher crit chance, crit damage ops. Those are gonna be great. But generally, what you want to have is a lot extra base damage and a lot of extra signature charge. Because then you can just use your high power abilities more often and destroy enemies even harder. More base damage means a critical hit on average is going to deal a lot more damage. And just increasing the crit hit damage doesn't exactly give you very high power builds. No, you need a lot of base damage in order for critical hits to become worth it. So focus on that, not on crit chance. Something like the needle items, for example, I would rather avoid. Just keep your consistent high crit chance and increase your base damage, and you're gonna be absolutely golden. And with all of that out of the way, I don't think we have any more Arcana here to mention, to be fair. You can go with anything you like. Jumps, Permafrost, for example. High damage, ranged abilities like Explosive Fireball and Claymore might come in handy when baiting enemies out, but you don't really need anything at all. You don't really have any trouble dealing damage, for example, or procking enemies, grouping them up. So in that regard, nothing to mention here, and I'd say let's move on to the run. Let's grip our money here. We don't want to dodge anyone in particular, so let's just straight up go for it. Thunder Twins, Shu, and Atlas. Okay, that's a fairly diverse pool here. I do like fighting Shu here because it's gonna be quite easy. Also like fighting Atlas, should also be rather easy considering that we have abilities that are strong against both of those bosses. Early on, very early on we're talking, we should be able to destroy pretty much any and everything we hit in just the cost of 2 or 3 abilities, like so. We can also abuse the iframes by pulling in the barrel there, which will still deal damage to the enemies. The enemies don't have iframes when you're jumping, only you do. Love to see it. I feel like my throat is very dry for some reason. Kinda having issues to talk right now, but that's fine. I've been on a little bit of a recording break, or a long-term talking break, I should probably say. I did record a lot, even while being sick. However, a lot of boss rush, not exactly voiced videos. I didn't want to cough all over the place. Coughing is, I don't know. It makes me feel kind of bad when I cough around a lot. It makes me feel kind of embarrassed for some reason. Tears of Midas is good, however we don't really care much for that. The candy definitely works very well with a build like this, but as aforementioned, we do not want to focus on our basic goodness, so let's not do that, shall we? Bax's Cape Key is a very good long-term revive. Love to see it, though I'm not gonna necessarily pick that up. Calcifying Bone Mail, on the other hand, is very, very good. It helps us compensate a lot for the downtime in between abilities and allows for us to be hyper-aggressive and then pretty much ignore the downtimes entirely. We will take damage, we will take plenty, but the Bone Mail does reduce that damage taken by a lot. And I really mean a lot of damage. Okay. I'm a little bit out of practice here, I gotta admit. Haven't played a lot of Wizard recently. Haven't played a lot of games, period. I'm kind of, I've kind of been in old person mode, so to speak. So, going to bed rather early, not doing much, being rather low energy for the majority of the day. Love the Robe upgrade here, let's check that out. 15% crit hit chance and 37.5% crit hit damage increase. That's fantastic. It's gonna be incredible. Getting this early on is just so good. Look at that damage. 11 damage on Ice Dagger consistently. Sweet. You might have a different definition of consistent damage, because a crit technically isn't consistent unless you have a 100% critical hit chance, right? But I do view this as consistent damage increases, because it happens so often, I'd say it is pretty much to be expected. Don't know how I get hit there, to be honest. I was pretty sure I'd just jump in between, but apparently the Lancer was slightly faster than me there, and so he cancelled my ability, and I took a little bit of damage. Hyper-aggressive is the place to be. What's with my throat today, man? It's a little annoying. Yeah, I think I will try and pick up the Box Escape key. I'm gonna try to group all of them up here, so I can finish off the adversaries. Just wait for them to attack. Attack into a wall, so they will not get out of my ability. Sorry, I meant, of course, making them attack into a wall, into the corner, instead of dashing over here where they'd be out of range. And then signature, killing them while they can't do anything about it, which is sweet. I will get the Box Escape. Yeah, fuck it. Absolutely getting that. That allows for me to be even more aggressive in the late game. Potentially picking up stuff like, again, Glass Cannon, Heart Render's Amulet, Double Trouble, though a Double Trouble is a must pick up with this build. It's just so strong. I will pick that up even when I am on like 100 HP, max HP that being. It's just so good. It's just so damn good. If you're not being hit, it's great. It's probably the best item in the entirety of the game. A little bit clunky there because they wouldn't group up, but what can I say? I don't mind. Okay. I do intend to make this a quick run, as we don't need many items to beat late game bosses by any means. Mirror Shield isn't the greatest pickup because it still works while you're having iframes, so when you're jumping in the air and a projectile goes through you, not being able to hit you, the Mirror Shield will still absorb it, getting destroyed in the process for a rather long period of time, so this is a very pickup with this build. Not super applicable. Nocturnal Sundial, on the other hand, is all the cooldown reduction you will ever need. So much stronger than Roxel's Pendulum because you don't need a consistent sort of inflow, I guess, of cooldown reduction. You don't care much about lowering all of your cooldown. You only want the occasional full reset, and for that, the Nocturnal Sundial is mwah, chef's kiss. It's fantastic. Definitely gonna pick that up, because then I won't have to worry about cooldown reduction whatsoever for the remainder of the run, and I will be able to just deal a lot more damage. A lot more often. The end goal here is anyway, with the Sundial, or without the Sundial, that being, to just spam your signature and your standard. We don't really care about anything else, to be honest. The more you have to use your basic, the worse your build is. Probably. Just a broad assumption, but it's generally true, I'd say. Nox with pretty bad items here. We can't use any of these. All of these suck with this build. Oversized Needle is just getting rid of all your damage. You can use this later in your run, but it you have to have an insanely high base damage for this to ever become worth it. And other than that, we only have a Mercenaries Dagger or a lot of cooldown reduction, which, again, less damage dealt, no thanks. Reducing our cooldowns by 50% isn't even that impactful. Like, it's good, but a Sundial is literally better than this, and it doesn't have a downside. Mercenaries Dagger is okay. It's just way too early in the run to pick that up. I would not be dealing a lot of damage, and the run would take forever. Exactly. That's the issue here. I think I'll just move on. I am low on gold, but I don't think that's gonna pose too big of an issue. Kill the ads. Got my standard cancelled there again, but that's okay. Don't care much. Super carrot cake, so I can pick up dependable. Oh, wow. I absolutely butchered that. Dependable cake. If I come across. Sorry. Thanks for the healing. Don't know what's going on today, dude. Talking is kind of hard today. Not only mentally, but also physically. Hope you don't mind. It's just a simple but fun run, right? I don't mind damage boosting here. That, of course, being a term for eating the damage they deal to me in trade for just dealing damage back at them. In fact, I absolutely want to do that because they don't hit very often or fast. Another jump. Look at that. Airborne slam. Very strong. It's melee. It's movement. It's AoE. Great. Love to see it. Welcome to the team. We want to take damage as early on as possible in order to stack our cake. Just giving us a lot of extra HP, which is sweet. It's just another resource that we can trade for things. It's not super powerful by any means, but it's another resource we can trade. Might as well stack it early. Though if we do end up picking up a dependable cake, that's gonna reset the counter on our max HP, which is always a bummer. But again, not super important. It's just a resource after all. It's just like money. You don't concede a run just because you're out of money, right? Now, also, of course, we have the calcifying bone rain making us take a lot less damage, therefore that strategy is just so much more viable. Damage boosting generally is very fun, in my opinion. Just going full ham on a boss, regardless of whether they're attacking you or not, regardless of whether they're gonna hit and stun lock you or not. We don't care about that at all. It might look, from the outside looking in, like I am making mistakes, but trust me, it's all calculated. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Jump across to then just regroup, get the cooldowns back off. I do admit I make a lot of plays that are mistakes, but most of the plays that look like mistakes, I wouldn't consider any. It's just a strategic play. Like me jumping over the top of the thieves there, for example. It's a strategic play. You might argue that it's a mistake because I'm losing out on a little bit of damage dealt, but I will say it allows for me to get back up the abilities that deal slightly more damage, more reliably, and just, you know, it works. Is it a mistake if it works out perfectly fine? I wouldn't say so. Oh wow, they died quickly. Lay it here just enough so I can hit everyone with it, and then do this. Didn't get the timing right, but that's okay. I was gonna hit it earlier so the Lancer wouldn't be able to jump in time, but he did. Group them up. Okay, my guy is just too retarded to walk around the corner, but I suppose that's fine, don't care much. Triple jumps. That's the dream. We do not get an upgrade for our important Arcana, though we get an upgrade for our dash, which is fine. I like picking up upgrades early so we can invest into a luxury handbag, for example. We find soccer cleat right away, that's sweet. Also, supply crate. We don't have a lot of money generation here right off the get-go, so I don't think supply crate is super good, but it's discounted, so I will pick it up. And then the soccer cleats, which increases all of our damage essentially by 15%. 15%, my guy. Did you hear me? Again, 15% for free. Well, it's not quite free, but next to. Okay, 150G, that's not a lot. That's not a lot at all. The damage we're already putting out, it's retarded. This is just unfair. Our enemies don't stand the slightest bit of a chance. Just kill one. It's fine. What's with the healing orbs, man? Why am I finding so many? What's going on there? It feels like the game is slightly tipping the scales towards my favor. Okay, we can sell BS. We don't exactly have any trashy items in here. I mean, we could sell the Windbreaker. That's not super impactful. I do want to keep the Carrot Cake for the aforementioned Nox item. I don't exactly need Takeout Box, for example. Oh, however, I do. I will return for the... What's it called, man? I already forgot. For the Dash upgrade. I don't know what the hell it's called. Can't be bothered. Thank you. Moving on. Takeout Box is a very strong pickup, as we will not take a lot of damage, naturally. Over the course of this run, we will just destroy everything. Pretty much obliterate everything, leaving nothing but dead buddies behind. And I don't think we're gonna be taking much damage. Because when you actually end up killing everything faster than it can even start hitting you, turns out you can't exactly be hit by anything. You can't be hit if they're already dead. Just look at that. Those were elite wind thieves. Elite enemies. Unable to do anything. Didn't mean to jump into the pit there, but I did, so... What can you do, right? Try again. Try again. Come on. Stupid. Still, we don't find an upgrade for our heroic ability. Oh, apparently you don't have iframes while dashing into the heroic lead. That's interesting. So that's how I got cancelled earlier. I did not know that. It's not exactly been something that occurred to me so far. That should tell you a lot, honestly, about how brain and simple this build is to play. Just look at the sundial procs. This item is so ridiculous. You just combine the strongest archetype of Arcana in the entirety of the game by a landslide, being jumps, with cooldown reduction, with essentially instant 100% cooldown reduction, and high damage, and many other, probably other... Sorry, I can't talk today. What is it, man? You just combine all the strongest shite in the game with other uncounterable strategies, and you're good to go. That's really all you need. You just press your buttons, and you watch the world burn. I love doing that. I love jumps, generally. They are just so fun. Not because they are super broken, but because I love mobility paired with high damage, so naturally I do cater towards using jumps. However, you do gotta admit, these abilities are ridiculous. Ridiculously overpowered. Oh yeah, in case you didn't know, they also destroy projectiles. So if you need more signature charge generation, there you go. Okay, Limo's leave is sweet. Love to see it. Laser drum is also nice. Also love the Ella's glass kite. They also jump across pits. They do everything. Just delay it a little so I don't get stomped on. Oh, we are still missing out on our friend, which is probably not gonna be Nox, but one can hope. Stab that. Where do we gotta go next? Probably down. Most likely down. Probably over here. Most likely over here. A 99 charges on a dash that actually deals now, anyway. Deals pretty good damage. Seems very, very strong. Everything we do here is just overpowered. I'm sorry, I can't even contain myself. It's kind of fitting that I can't talk today. I don't need to say much about this, do I? I know I said you can't chain jumps together, but we are getting to a point where we can. Let's grab the glass kite so we can take even more damage, just ignoring our enemies even that much more. And it's Shu, so this is really, really strong. Glass kite into Shu is ridiculous. Just ignore the ultimate altogether. Kill him. Go, just walk up to him, punch him in the face. That's what we're doing here. Generate signature charge. Oh, ignition drive. Cool. We only found wind and fire so far, which is great. So if we do end up finding a royal flash, it's gonna be a little more impactful than otherwise. Okay, no clue where I'm going here. I don't really think I have to give a shit. Try again. Now, our dash in the upgraded version is essentially as good as Airborne Slam. Essentially does the same thing as well. So it's great. If you're winning, here, now you're winning even more. Try to abuse iframes as much as humanly possible. Oh my god, that looked so funny. 99 death. Ah, I can't talk. 99 dash charges. Oh my fucking god. Why is he talking so hard some days? I'm not even super excited. This is just a regular build for me, to be honest, at this point. I've played jumps just so often. I love jumps. I use them in pretty much all of my favorite builds. At least some kind of very versatile mobility. I don't care about you hitting me, because you're just gonna die. I love this. It's so poetic that we found the 99 dash brutes as well, because there's an item that is just so fucking strong for this build. Goes so well with this. And then the lemurs leave as well, so we can't be hit at all, even when they actually try to. Come on, give me more charges. I love playing around with this. I wish I could have an item that says, okay, you have 99 dashes and you will never be able to use any other abilities. Cool. Well done, boy. Again, this jump is not very impactful. Imagine a jump that's actually super strong when you use it, and then you have 99 uses of it. And you combine that with the Nocturnal Sundial. Oh my god, dude. Awesome. So good. Curse Eaters is great, gives us a lot more crit chance and extra damage, so we love to see it. Definitely picking that up. Also love the Firestone because we do get up close to our enemies a lot. It's very, very good with this build, and I love to play with it. Catalytic is great. Stanza is okay, and Plaguing Sprite is decent, but I don't think I'm gonna pick up anything else here. I might just move on altogether, but I do still wish to find my Cursed Merchant. We could always escalate just slightly harder. And we are definitely going to be with the Heroic Leap there. I think we should get about, what, like 50, 60, maybe 70 gold from doing the mini-boss. So we should end up with enough of money in order to afford that. Yeah, keep hitting me. I don't care. Luxury handbag. Sweet. Also, Armoner's Low Note, which might be a better pickup with the supply crate, but we don't care about longevity here at all, in fact. So, Luxury Handbag seems like a great pickup. I believe it is a damage down currently. Oh shit. Oh well, we didn't find enough money. I forgot the tiny little fact that, indeed, I have already beaten the mini-boss. So, Luxury Handbag is just a liability currently then. That's fine. What was that? So what happened there is I used Heroic Leap, which dashes first. Remember, the dash, no iframes on that. So it dashes into the actual leap, into the jump, and then I dashed through this poison cloud. Got poisoned immediately. The poison ticked down immediately, damaging me and cancelling the ability. So I just sort of glided across the floor there, looking very, very funky. Very interesting. Never actually seen that happen, but quite funny to watch. Oh my god! Holy shit. So much damage. The key is coming a little late, the cursed key. Can't really pick that up at this point. And why so, you might ask? Well, because I'm pretty much done with the run here. What good is it gonna do me at this point? No great items in here. Anchor is decent. Gives me slightly more damage with the Curse Eaters and with the Anchor bonus. We can definitely pick that up. It's just a lot of extra damage. Cooldown reduction. Oh, wow. Look at that. Look at what we found in here. This is fantastic. This is a 10 out of 10. Now, as we're not gonna see another Nox, I'm just gonna toss the Carrot Cake. Don't care much about the extra max HP. Blades of Sympathy, on the other hand, allows for us to play hyper-aggressively. Yet again, another one of those items. Whenever I'm hit, for a short period of time, whenever I hit an enemy, I heal for a low amount of HP. Now, with abilities that hit 1 billion times per second, like Heroic Blaze, for example, this thing is nuts. This is just unfair. I don't even care about you. Just do whatever you want with me. I definitely gotta get used to... I definitely really gotta get used to using Heroic Leap in the Chaos Trials. I'm used to using this into bosses and mini-bosses with Boss Rush, or into real players, so into single targets typically. That's why I have literally never seen it be cancelled. But here that does happen very often because I'm just not used to it. So definitely don't want to use that too aggressively to engage with. It's after all not a real dash, quote unquote, because it doesn't grant iframes for the entirety of its duration. If that dash did grant iframes, this would be incredibly good. It'd be like Airborne Slap, like the other Arcana that I'm currently carrying. You know, remember that one. It's very strong. Oof. Flowered item and Surefire Rocket as well. These are fantastic. Also Bounty Hunter, which would be guaranteed to proc pretty much because we just kill Atlas with wind. Oh my god, dude. What a run. Considering dropping the escape key though, having one revive with an incredibly aggressive build is typically very, very strong. Definitely don't need the Boots of Frenzy any longer, so I can toss that and probably pick up the crown. I think Diadem is... Is it the better option? I don't think so. I already have Buck's escape key, which can proc multiple times. And it usually does, let's be fair. Now technically, since I don't have double trouble, what I should be doing here is let enemies deliberately hit me, just so I can heal it back up, because I won't be taking much damage from being hit, but I will be healing a lot when hitting enemies. But I don't really care about my HP pool. I haven't consumed a single healing pot here, as you would expect from a super, super overpowered jump build. We don't need much to make this work. Dashed into the pit there. I did try dashing across, maybe in between. So like onto... Sorry. Trying to demonstrate it here. I did try dashing like so. No, not like that. Can I actually do it? I was trying to dash into the pit. Does that work? I believe it should. So just into the area, just the very ledge, I guess, before the pit, where you usually end up falling into the pit afterwards. Can I also dash into the pit? Yes, I can. This is what I was trying to do, dash in between them, sort of damage them, drag them in, and then fall into the pit. Just a kind of a stylish way of killing them, I guess. A very stupid, inefficient way, but still very stylish, fun to pull off way. But I did fail at that. It's kind of hard, to be honest, to not land on the ground there. I feel like I always learn something new when playing these builds. Okay, what do we pick up? We have so many good picks here. But the one that we should undeniably pick up isn't here, because I missed it on the last stage. Heroic Leap upgrade. Where are you, my beloved? So instead, Surefire Rocket seems like an insane pickup. Let's get rid of the Boots of Frenzy. Grab the Surefire Rocket. Now we only need enough money to then buy the potential find of our upgrade on the next stage. The next stage, of course, being the Sura Shump after beating Atlas. I really want that heroic upgrade. It'd be fantastic. It goes so well with the build. Now, do we toss the Cobalt Stone and maybe grab something else here? I don't think we have to. I think we have plenty of money. I don't think we need a Bounty Hunter seal necessarily. We have the Buck's Escape Key as well to save us, potentially multiple times. Again, usually it does revive you, or anyway it works for me, usually about 2 or 3 times on average. Which is pretty damn good. That thing is ridiculously good. So I am definitely relying on that. Definitely showing a little bit of overconfidence here. Evasion. We also have Limo's Leaf. We can be just so cocky. And really don't have to give a shit about anything. Anything at all. We heal damage back up when we take it. We take damage from consecutive attacks, less and less and less. Oh, another upgrade. That's going to make a luxury handbag a lot stronger. We deal insane damage back at our foes. We have multiple potential revives. It's just, we have a Limo Sleeve even. This thing is so broken by itself. You can dash through attacks and evade 100% of what you're being confronted with. This thing is nuts by itself. And then you combine it with items like these usually very expensive Buck's Escape Key, Soccer Cleats, Dark Katana, Bone Mail, a Surefire Rocket that essentially guarantees that we get plenty of signatures. And then all these other nutty items. This build is just ridiculous. But again, most of my runs where I play a jump-based build are ridiculous. You can't really make them bad by any means. Even if you go full defense, this build is still gonna slap. Oh, I didn't destroy the archer projectile there. Kind of a bummer. It was kind of too slow, to be honest. I would expect it to be way faster. Oh no, he dashed into it. Great. Cool. Cobalt Firestone action. Value, let's go. Okay, hey, we get it. Heroic Leap. And enough money to buy Healing Pot, even though we really don't have to care about that. And a Unicorn Trail. Tail? What's it actually called? It's the tail. Okay. I love Unicorn Tail. It's great. It does nothing, but it looks fantastic. It doesn't technically do nothing. It's just so minute. Maybe toss the Cobalt, but that's so much damage. Now let's just heal it up and confront our foe. Also, something that I totally forgot doing today. We, of course, got a Curse Eater's Mask. I have to bounce it on my head. Totally forgot about that. I'm so glad about this run. Already coming to a conclusion here because I'm 100% sure I'm going to demolish Sora here in about 3 seconds or so. So the conclusion to this run would be, I'm so glad we found so many synergies today. So expensive synergies as well. Like Surefire, Lemurs, and Calcifying, for example. And even our starting relic, honestly, Dark Katana, these are such expensive relics, but we found all of them. We had enough money. We upgraded everything, including our robe, all of our Arcana, got a luxury handbag, got all these synergies. Something like a Nocturnal Sundial is just ridiculous. Nocturnal Sundial by itself is enough to make this build. Believe it or not, I've played many runs with it, and thank God is it broken. Yep. Let's go, Sora. I should have also swapped my ranged ability here for the lightning ability, because it's got way better projectile destruction capabilities. But I feel like that's a very minor detail. Come on. I was considering there for a second killing him off, finishing him off with the Cobalt Firestone. That would have been funny. Didn't even get a little close to dying. Didn't even bring us below half. Again, thanks to the Calcifying Bone Mail and courtesy to Lemur's Leave and Blades of Sympathy. Just, my God, what a run. Let's drop the Bucks Key. Destroy it. Drop everything else. What a fantastic run to play. Just a very fast one, but again, I always expect these runs to be just the fastest possible achievable runs. Could only make it faster if you started with a map or a key that teleports you to the exit right away, and then just a very high damage Chaos Arcana build, for example. But jumps, generally, excluding all Chaos Arcana from the game, are the strongest abilities in this game, and the most versatile, and the most consistently, most overpowering unfair abilities. Even in PvP, I think these are unfair, even though you only get one chance to hit your jump. It's usually a very large hitbox, it's very high damage, it applies a status effect usually, and man, these things are so toxic to fight against. You can't do anything about them because the enemy has iframes, but I'm rambling. I'm rambling about PvP, which has nothing to do with the Chaos Trials. I would play this any day. 10 out of 10. This is the average jump build, and I love it. Now, if you actually were to play a full jump build with the bunny ears as a starting relic, I would strongly recommend you don't pick up abilities like the heroic abilities, because they require you to stand still, and bunny ears are just so much better when you are free to move around wherever you want to go. Though for this approach, this was just more of a cool high numbers, cool synergies, everything just works by itself, you don't need anything type of build approach, and my god, it worked out well. I have never used Heroic Leap before assembling this build. To this day, this is pretty much the first time I've ever used it in the Chaos Trials. Even as a support ability, I believe I've never used this, so great, love it. It's great. It has its caveats, as we could tell. Over the course of this run, I dashed into multiple attacks, I dashed into multiple pits and traps even, essentially hurting myself and aborting this ability, which is super bad, and it would have been super bad under different circumstances had I been on low HP, for example. That could have been a crucial mistake, a run ender, but usually that's not happening. If we run multiple very overpowering abilities, there's just no freaking way we could ever lose this, even if we screw up multiple times, even if we screw up on purpose. And I loved it. This was great. Thank you very much for watching this. Apologies for the bad speech today, for the bad stuttering and the just general brain farts, I suppose. Today it doesn't really feel like it's my fault. Let's put it that way. It doesn't feel like it's my body's fault or anything. Like it doesn't feel like stuttering. Usually that's kind of uncontrollable, like incredibly hard to control. Today it just feels like brain farts. Like I'm just ripe for a weekend. And yeah, so I'm gonna try and enjoy my weekend now after editing this and all that. Anywho, thank you very much for watching. Hope you had fun. Hope you can maybe learn something. Hope you can maybe see that jumps also have downsides, albeit very small downsides. They do have downsides. Okay, keep that in mind. Don't always play with jumps. Don't be that guy. Don't make every run a blast to play and super easy, because that kind of gets very stale. If you overdo it, I don't like doing that, personally. I think overdoing it, to at least to the average person, should make this kind of theme very bland and boring to whoever is playing it. If you just play with these all the freaking time, that's why I don't play my favorite builds all the time. I try to go out of my way to come up with new creative stuff and just play different builds so I can enjoy my favorite builds that much more. And I can confidently say that this, even though it's just a broadly assembled, very simplistic build, is easily one of my favorite build archetypes in the entirety of this game. It's always a blast to play, and that's why I don't want to ruin it for me, but I do want you to be able to enjoy potentially a new type of build you've never tried out. So there you go. Third time's the charm. Thank you very much for watching, and as per usual, I wish you all a good morning, a good day, or a good night, wherever you are. And until next time, bye bye.